Անուն հոր եւ որդվո եւ օգուին սրբո ամեն։ Սիրելի ավադացյալներ, այսօր մեծ բակի երրորդ գիրագին է եւ այսօր ցանոթ է որպես անարագի գիրագին։ Անոնք, որոնք եկեղեցի եկան անցնող երկու շաբաթներուն, գիտեն, որ մեծ բակի շրջանին մեր գիրագիները այն մեկը ցանոթ է իր հadouk անունով, առաջին գիրագին փումփարեգենտաններ եկեղեցի մեզ գիշեցներ այն բարի կյանքի մասին, որ Աստված մեզի տվավ, բայց որ մենք գործընծենք զայն մեղքին պատճառով։ Այդ մասին խորհրդատեցինք անցյալ գիրագի արդակսման գիրագին ընդմեջեն։ Այսօր կգոչվի անարագի գիրագի եւ եկեղեցին գուքա մեզի սելուտ է, թեև մենք Աստուծո շնորհքեն զրկված ենք, բայց եթե մենք որոշենք վերադառնալ, Աստված մեզի կընդունի եւ մեզի ցույց կտա ճանապարհը։ Այսօր Աբեդարանի ընթերցումը այդ մասին է։ Անարագի գիրագի գսենք, որովհետեւ անարագ որդին պատմությունն է, որը գարտանք ու գաս Աբեդարանեն։ Բայց մեր եկեղեցի մեզի երեք տարբեր արակներ կտա, որ Հիսուս խոսած է եւ գուզե որ անոնց մասին խոսիլ։ Եվ եթե այս երեքի մասին մենք ուզենք մտածել, հետևյալ հստակ գաղափարը կա. գործվելու եւ գտնելու գաղափարը կա։ Գորուստը, բանը որ մենք մեր կյանքի մեջ բոլորս անցուցած ենք, բոլորս մեր կյանքի մեջ տարբեր բաներ կրնանք գործընծնել։ Կրնանք մեր առողջությունը գործընծնել, կրնանք մեր ընտանիքի սիրելի անդամը գործընծնել, կրնանք մենք մեր կյանքի նպատակը գործընծնել։ Բանը որ մենք բոլորս այսօր մեջ ենք անցնենք։ Եվ երբ որ փամը յետ գտնենք, այդ ուրախությունը, որ գաբրենք, բնականաբար շատ մեծ է։ Այսօր ինչպես ասի Հիսուս երեք տարբեր արակներ կտա մեզի։ Առաջինը գործված ոչխարին արակն է։ Գսե երևակայեցեք մեկը, որ 100 հատ ոչխար ունի, եւ այդ 100-ն մեկ հատ գործվի։ Չեք կարծեր, որ գցկե 99 եւ գերտա, եւ այդ մեկ հատը կփնդրե, եւ երբ որ փնդրե եւ գտնե, ուրախությամբ իր ուսերուն վրա շալգած կվերադառնա։ 100 հատ ոչխարեն, երբ որ մեկ հատ գործընծնես, 1% գործընծած եղավ, չէ՞։ Հաջորդ արագը քիչ գավելնա։ Երկրորդ արագի մեջ կսա երևակայեցեք մեկը, որ 10 հատ արձած թահեգան ունի եւ մեկ հատ գործընծնե։ 10% գործընծուց։ Չեք կարծեր, որ ջրակը գվարե եւ կսկսի դունը ավլել, մաքրել եւ երբ գտնեք ուրախանա։ Թրացներն ալ կգան, չէ՞։ Այս երկու հատը մեզի ցույց կտան մեր զգացումներու մասին, երբ որ փամը գործընծնենք։ Եվ մեր ուրախության մասին, երբ որ գտնենք։ Բայց գործվածի մասին չենք գիտեր։ Չենք գիտեր ոչխարի մասին արդյոք որչափ վախծավ, երբ որ սկսավ լսել քայլերուն ցայնը։ Կամ տրամը արդեն զգացումներ չունի։ Բայց գործվածին վիճակը մեզի հասկացնելու համար Հիսուս կպատմի երրորդ արագը։ Այն արագը, որ ցանոթ է որպես անարագ որդին պատմությունը։ Եվ այսօր պիտի ուզենք, որ անոր մասին խորհրդացենք, բայց այդ բաժինը եկեք անգլերենով բնեմ, որպեսզի վստահ ալամ, որ ամեն մարդ կհասկանա ասածներս։ Dear brothers and sisters, today is the third Sunday of the Great Lent, and today, in our tradition, in the tradition of the Armenian Church, is called the Sunday of the Prodigal, because we read the parable of the Prodigal Son. Jesus tells a story of a family where there were two sons and a father. We don't know anything about the mother. In this family, the younger son comes one day to the father and he tells him, "Give me my part of the inheritance." We don't know what was going on. We don't know if the younger son had any evil intentions. Maybe his desire was something very benign, something very naive. I try to imagine a young man sitting in front of his house, watching the mountains and watching the roads that sometimes caravans crossed. And probably he was trying to imagine what's beyond those mountains. Maybe I could go and I could discover it for myself. Maybe he needed some freedom. Maybe he did not enjoy the smothering that was taking place in his house. But he took his chances. When he left, he did something rather insulting. In that culture, asking the father to give the inheritance while the father was still alive was something that was not acceptable. But we see the father not doing anything, dividing his inheritance, giving everybody their part, and next thing we know, the young son goes to a foreign land. And obviously, he has no problem making friends there because he had lots of money. He was enjoying his life, and everyone was okay. But two things happened at the same time. He started running out of money, and a famine hit the place where he was staying. Maybe if the story was told in modern terms, probably would have said there was a recession. So we know that he had no money, and he was having a hard time trying to sustain himself. Now we know that this was happening in a Jewish context, and it would have been easier for him to go and find some Jewish communities there and try to find work there, but he did not do that. He went and he tried to find a job with someone from that foreign country. And he chose to tend the swine of that man. Now that was pretty sacrilegious, because at that moment where he took that job, he was saying that I'm also declining my religion. His situation was not a happy one. He was in a bad place. He was trying to feed himself from the food that was designated to the pigs, but the text tells us that the pigs wouldn't give him anything to eat. Next thing that we read in the story is a very, very powerful statement. The story tells us he came to his senses. A lot of preachers, when they read this parable and when they get to this part, they usually tell us that he hit rock bottom. Yes, a lot of people hit the rock bottom. But the word here is very important. He came to his senses. In other words, he found himself. He started to discover who he was. This whole movement of the son, from leaving his father's house, going and befriending foreign people, and eventually tending the swine, was a descent. And he went down. And in that journey of going down, sometimes something powerful could happen. You can discover yourself. Well, not everyone has to be like the prodigal son, by the way, for us to discover ourselves. Different things could happen in our lives where we can experience that descent to find who we are. I recall reading a story of a preacher from the U.S. who went to Europe, and he was staying there in a European country, and he was teaching at a university and also preaching there on Sundays. And one day, one specific Sunday, the reading was the parable of the prodigal son. And he was preaching, and one of his co-workers came and he asked him at the end of his sermon, "Do you find yourself among the swine here?" And that was a waking up moment for the preacher. Yes, he was experiencing that descent. He was deprived from everything that he had, probably, the luxury that he had in this country. And he said, "No, I'm not among the swine. I appreciate the good friendship that I have with you. However, it seems like I need to come to my own senses. I need to discover myself. I need to know who I am. The story of the prodigal son, my friends, invites us to discover ourselves. A lot of us live a life of oblivion. We don't know who we are. We just follow motions. I've done this since I was a child. We never question those things. Coming to our senses is really, really important condition for our growth. When he finds himself, the prodigal son decides to go back. He goes back thinking about one thing. He rehearses in his mind what he's going to say. And it's very obvious. He knows that what he did was insulting not only to his father, but also against heaven, because he declined his religion. This in itself is very important. We don't see that the son was afraid, thinking, if I go now, after doing all the bad things that I have done, what could my father do to me? He wasn't afraid that if I go home, probably I would find my father in rage, or maybe depressed, or maybe clinging to his bottle, has turned into an alcoholic. He knew his father too well. He knew his father would do whatever was just, and he was okay with the idea of justice. He made his journey back home, and before he got there, his father saw him coming from far away, and he went to welcome him. He embraced him. He kissed him. And when the son was trying to say whatever he had rehearsed, the father did not hear that, because the son's actions spoke louder than the words. He welcomed him back. He gave him the robe, which in our tradition in the Armenian church, we say he was divested, or he became naked because of his sins. He put back that robe on. He gave him slippers because he was no longer a slave. He was a son. There were no conditions. There was one thing that prevailed, and that was love. The love that the father had for the son was recreating. The son was dead. With his love, the father resurrected the son. The love was so big that probably the father was thinking, I cannot no longer accept the fact that you're not with me. Yes, you hurt me. Yes, whatever you did was wrong. But the fact that you're here is the most important thing. And the love was something that was reciprocated. He went with the intention of apologizing. And the father not only accepted, but he also embraced the prodigal son. This is a problem that we all face. And I know some parishioners have come and spoken to me about this. We speak a lot about forgiveness. We spoke about this last Sunday. And we said there is a difference between forgiveness and reconciliation. I know people who have issues with their family members, their friends, and they go and they want to reconcile. They go and they apologize. But that sense is not reciprocated. Fortunately, in our relationship with God, the love that we have is reciprocated. If we take one step, God is taking 10 steps. God is ready to welcome us. There is this idea in the Old Testament that the younger son is always the better one. For example, Jacob and his older brother. We know that how Jacob got his way and God gave him his blessings, and everyone considers Jacob to be the hero. Or Joseph, who was number 11. When he was sold to the Egyptians, he became a hero and he saved the entire family. Well, in this story, that cliche is kind of broken. The younger son is not a hero. Because both the younger son and the older son, they share the same condition. The older son comes back from the field as the father starts throwing a party because the younger son has come back. His words are very, very powerful. The father says, he was dead, now he is alive. Therefore, we need to celebrate. The older son comes, and he doesn't like what he hears. He asks the servants, what is going on? And the servants tell him that your brother came back, and your dad is celebrating. He doesn't want to go and participate. The father speaks to him, and we hear how resentful the older son is. He is self-absorbed. And there's in this part we come to see what they both share together, the older son and the younger son. We come to discover that they are both hungry. The younger son was hungry. He was trying to get some food from the pigs, but the pigs would not give him anything. The older son was hungry, and he was expecting the father to give him something. But he thought that his father was not giving him anything. In both cases, we see them having expectations. They both expected something to be given to them. But it's very interesting. In the beginning of the story, we see that the father dividing the inheritance equally between the two of them. What else the older son was expecting? Maybe there was a sense of narcissism there, a sense of entitlement, that I deserve more. You should give me more. He was hungry for something more. And that sense of hunger, my friends, is very dangerous. Sometimes we are hungry and we do not know what it is that we desire. What is it that we want? We spend a lifetime trying this and trying that, and nothing can feed that hunger that we have inside us. It's only when we come to our senses and discover our own woundedness and our own brokenness that we can see why we are hungry and what it is that can fill our hunger. The hero in this story is the father. And there's a lot that we can learn from the father. The father in the story is wise. Because when the young boy came and asked him for his inheritance, he did not stop him. He didn't tell him, what? You're going to waste all my money. You got to sit here. Don't you see what we have here? No, he let him go. And he let him learn from his own mistakes. The father in the story was a patient man. He sat there and he waited patiently for the return of the son. And finally, the father in the story was an affectionate man. When the young boy came back, he hugged him and he kissed him. We as fathers have a lot to learn from this story. We take our role as something for granted. We tend to give things. We don't want to listen to our children. We don't want to spend time. We're not patient. We're not affectionate. This story tells us a lot about what is true fatherhood is. And the proof for my theory is that when the prodigal son came to his senses, he had something in his heart. He knew that if he went back home, the father will accept him. He didn't say, let me go to another country. He went back home. The Sunday of the prodigal, my friends, is a very important Sunday during our journey of Lent. It shows us about the love of God and how God, with his open arms, is waiting for us. But before we go there, it's very important for us to discover ourselves, to know who we are, to know what are the things that are preventing us from getting to the arms of the loving Father. Because once we get there, the loving Father will love us